In terms of you mentioned growing up and watching Bond and things like that. What about when you first got into film and when you first got to the cinema for the first time? Any early cinema memories that you have? Do you have like a story for the first time that you went to the cinema?
So I don't unfortunately remember the very first film I saw. I don't remember the first film I saw in the theater. So I I, I think, and I mean, I have these memories of certain films that I might have seen in the theater, but now as I'm getting older, my memories are becoming much hazier. But the I think I could say, for instance, I mean, what was what was I was a kid. Um, I mean, I remember seeing. Okay. I remember seeing or being to the theater, going to the theater, or my parents taking me to the theater, or whatever, to see Jaws 3. I'm thinking,
Yes, we love this.
I'm thinking, yes, and I'm thinking, what? I'm thinking years later, I'm thinking, there's no way I would take I mean, like, wow, that's amazing. I was able to go to the theater to see that kind of film. It's a great film, but I think that's one of the reasons why it stuck with me,
Yeah.
is because I saw it at such a young age. That, and if we're speaking of three films, I saw Superman 3 in the theater, and I don't remember too much about it except there's one scene in particular that's to this day it traumatizes me. Um, and so it's very memorable in that way. So Jaws 3, I remember seeing, or I have vague memories of going to the theater seeing. Superman 3, also Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. I remember going to the theater. For some reason, I have a memory of going to the theater. We entered the theater late, so we had already started, but we weren't. It was in still what was called the pre-title sequence of the film, or what one could call the pre-title sequence of the
Yep.
film. So I remember going to see Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. So these are the films in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And I think I went to see Return of the Jedi as well in the theater, but again, that memory unfortunately is not so clear to me now. But this would be, yeah, that would fall around that time. So what, 83? So early
Yeah.
80s would be this time when I first started to go to the theater. I remember too, my mom and my dad and we went to see Supergirl, the film Supergirl, in the theater. And for whatever reason, we were the only people in the theater on
Right.
Supergirl. And ever since then, we'd always talk about that moment. I remember when we saw Supergirl and we were the only ones in the theater. Ha ha ha! Wasn't that a fun time? And so that became a bonding experience for us to talk about, even years after the fact, going to see Supergirl. I enjoyed the film, by the way. Faye Dunaway and Peter O'Toole and Helen Slater. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, so those are some of the memories. So I'm a child of the 80s.
Yeah.
And so some of these early 80s films, having these vague memories of going to see in the theater. Police Academy 4, too. I think Police Academy 4 was one that I saw in the theater. So that was around the time where I think the Police Academy films were becoming less, maybe, risque.
Okay, yeah.
They became more PG around Police Academy 3 or so. And so I don't think I saw Police Academy 3 in the theater, although I did see Police Academy 3 on videotape. But then I think, yeah, Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol, excuse me, COP, COP.
Yeah,
Citizens
very good,
on
yes.
Patrol, yes.
That's interesting. No, not at all. But I mean, when you're a kid and a film franchise that you really like starts becoming a little bit more PG, it starts to be a little bit more uncool, isn't it? You don't want it to be as PG. That's really interesting, though. You saw Star Trek 3, Superman 3, Jaws 3, Return of the Jedi, which is the third Star Wars film. So that's all number 3, and then Police Academy 4.
Yeah. And also I saw Jaws 4, and I shouldn't say Jaws 4, Jaws the Revenge in the theater as well. So this came a little bit later, yes.
Yeah.
Jaws the Revenge. That was also a very memorable theater experience. And I must say, I think these theater experiences really helped or not helped, but they definitely formed the basis for my enjoyment and love for these films. So Jaws 3 and Jaws the Revenge. I just just speak about Jaws: The Revenge, the movie theater experience. It was so much fun. The crowd, I remember, was cheering. They were clapping and they were laughing. With I don't want to go into too many details, but as you know, the film, there's a moment that there's a moment that involves a plane in the middle of the ocean and Michael Caine. And when that happens, and then there's a scene when it resolves itself, the cheers in the audience, everyone was like clapping, yes, it was a wonderful thing. And so yes, I remember that film. Whenever I think of film Jaws: The Revenge, I think of that moment. Hoagie, right, is his name. Hoagie,
yes, that's right. Yeah.
And that turned me off. That film turned me off to banana boats for the rest of my life. I have never been on a banana boat ever since I saw that film. I don't think I've ever been on a banana boat.
I was going to say, were you a big banana boat fan before?
Probably not, but even if I were, that probably, yes, that sunk the stock of banana boat in my eyes forever.
No pun intended. So Jaws, I love all four Jaws films for different reasons. I don't know if it's just because I'm not particularly scared of sharks. I'm not scared of water. I like the idea of the films, especially the first one. And a couple of years ago, the local cinema here started showing classic films. And I said, that the one film I would love to see in the cinema is Jaws. And then lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, we are now showing Jaws at the cinema. And it was the warmest day of the year in Glasgow. It was like 32 degrees on a Saturday. Everybody's out, sunbathing, playing, running around, having a good time. And me and my dad went and sat and watched Jaws in the cinema. And it was one of the best cinema experiences that I've ever had, because I'd watched Jaws, maybe not as a child, but when I was a little bit younger with my dad, and we kind of bonded over that film. And then getting to see it in the cinema together was really nice. And then in 2021, they were also, when it was like the cinemas were coming back after the pandemic and things like that, they were trying to show bigger films that were going to get people back to the cinema. And they showed, like Back to the Future, and they showed big films like that, like The Matrix as well, with the new one coming out, E.T., and they also showed Jaws again. And this time I took my girlfriend who had never seen Jaws, and I was like, this is a big moment in our relationship. I said, at this point forward, this will determine how our relationship goes. We could have lots of arguments. We could have lots of important moments in life. But if you do not like Jaws, that could be the end of things.
And dare I ask, what was the verdict? Or should I not go there? I'm sorry.
No. She really enjoyed it. She really enjoyed it, which was good. But that story would have been a lot funnier if I was just like, I'm now a single man. But